I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until much later. Much, much later. By the time I was 27, I think it was, I had already been a software engineer for 7 years, and it was 7 years of thinking my brain just worked differently. Back then, I was working for this mid-sized startup. We were crammed into this long, narrow office where the airways smelled like burnt coffee and overheated computers. My desk was like right next to QA, which meant I heard everything: bug reports, complaints, random thoughts. You think that would be distracting, and it was, but for me, it was like adrenaline. If someone mentioned a bug in my code, I swivel in my chair before they even finish their sentences. I couldn't help it. It was like my brain would lock onto the scent and I had to track it down. But it wasn't always like that. There were days I could code 12 hours straight, forgetting to eat, to drink, to even blink. Then there were days I'd sit down to do something and nothing. My brain would scatter like marbles across a hardwood floor. I remember one Thursday, my manager handed me a refactoring task no one else wanted. It's tedious, she said, but it'll clean up a lot of our legacy code. I nodded, thinking, yeah, sure, I can handle tedious. It's not a big deal. And by Friday, it was a disaster. I'd open up the file, make 2 changes, then somehow end up reading about some obscure JavaScript optimization technique on Stack Overflow. I'd check Slack to ask a question, and suddenly I'd be deep into a conversation about a bug from a completely different project. My attention was like water running downhill. It went wherever it wanted. The frustration wasn't just in my mind, it was physical. My leg bounced, my jaw clenched. I wanted to focus, but it was like trying to hold on to smoke. And the worst part about it is that I convinced myself that all I needed was a quick break. And then I come back to find that an hour had vanished. And I somehow rewritten a script that wasn't even on my to-do list. By Monday, my manager gave me that look, not angry, just disappointed. She'd be like, you're brilliant when you're in the flow, but when you're not, you're gone. But life went on. I didn't get diagnosed that year, or the next after that. I just kept managing. Some projects I crushed. Others I barely crawled through. And every time I fell behind, I feel like I was letting everyone down. Even when I knew I was giving everything that I had. The diagnosis came years later, almost by accident. A friend noticed how I lit up when talking about complex problems, but seemed to fade out when it came down to routine tasks. She nudged me to get tested. I resisted, and because I thought ADHD was something kids had, I didn't know a lot then. But I went, and I sat in this beige office while a specialist asked me about my work and my school years, my habit of forgetting deadlines, but remembering random technical details forever. I remember one of those random technical details coming out in a presentation, and it was like I'm talking about technical stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, do you know why cats lift their tail for you to smell their butts or whatever? It was really weird. But that's when she said, you have ADHD. It wasn't a shock. I'm actually not sure what it was.